month on the most single-family homes and apartments in over 4 years. The battle over a House seat in Florida is finally over. Correspondent Tony Winton says Tea Party Congressman Allen West has conceded.
The concession by Allen West means that residents of the 18th Congressional District will have a new congressman, Democrat Patrick Murphy. Murphy claimed victory in the wee hours of the morning after election night and held on to a lead through several court challenges and partial recounts.
The Texas woman convicted of murder and the death of a child in a fire at her home daycare center has received an 80-year sentence. Jessica Tata still faces 3 more murder charges for the other children who died when she left them unattended to go shopping. There's more wet weather today in Washington and Oregon, resulting in flood warnings for some areas. The worst of the storm that swamped streets and brought down trees and power lines Monday is over. The storm is blamed for at least 1 death. You may have trouble finding a car to rent if you're traveling to the Northeast for the Thanksgiving holiday. There's a shortage thanks to Superstorm Sandy. The storm damaged thousands of cars, including many owned by rental companies. There's also more demand during the holiday season. Journalism without agenda, this is America's Radio News.
Hi,
I'm Dr. Jan McBarron.
We're a husband and wife team.
And together we host the #1 health talk show in the nation,
Duke and the Doctor.
You can hear our show weekday mornings at 10 here on WWNN AM 1470 Health and Wealth Radio.
We'll discuss up-to-date health news, give away gifts, share a laugh or two, and answer health questions from our callers.
So if you are ready to start feeling happy, healthy, and terrific, then tune in to Duke and the Doctor.
Weekday mornings at 10 on WWNN AM 1470.
Here's some great news from Tom Trento, host of the daily WNN Trento Vision Show. Due to the unparalleled success of the Trento Vision Show, you now have an amazing opportunity to advertise on the Trento Vision Show. If you want more information about this excellent opportunity for your business, please contact Tom Trento at 561-319-5533, or you can email him, tom@trentovision.tv. The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors. Welcome to Trento Vision, where bad ideas get pulverized and the truth will set you free. Trento Vision is hosted by Tom Trento. Tom can be reached at 561-319-5533 or tom@trentovision.tv. Listen and watch every weekday from 3 to 6 p.m. on AM 1470 WNN and trentovision.tv. Now, let's get a peek at Tom's view of the world. Here's Tom Trento.
Okay, we're back on another beautiful afternoon in Boca Raton. Now, my voice is coming back. Those of you who bore with us since last Friday when the frog came out of my pocket and went into my throat. I had no voice over the weekend, and late Sunday night it started slowly coming back. And Monday, which was yesterday, I was kind of struggling, but it's not quite there, but it's coming. And when you do a radio show, it's a good thing to have a voice. It's very helpful. We've tried lip syncing radio, but that doesn't work. But we do have good help with our folks here. It is 7 minutes past 5 o'clock. We have Tani coming on at 5:15. We've got to grab her. And we're going to do a little piece with her. I got a few questions. And what we are doing on TrentoVision.tv, 3 to 6 o'clock every day. Tell your friends, you got to get that application, iHeartRadio. I know many of you right now are just getting into your cars. You leave at 5 o'clock, you get in, you go hit the radio, you go way to the right-hand side, 1470, and you go, what is this? Well, we are National Security Radio. You see, we are very interested in keeping America safe from the jihadis and all the other crazy people out there. Well, and for many years we've been working in this sector. We work with retired and current individuals in the military, in the intelligence community, in law enforcement, and we write, we speak, we do exposés, we do all kinds of stuff. You can go to theunitedwest.org and see the body of our work, a lot of video exposés. And we've added to that our sister entity, TrentoVision.tv, which is an educational, kind of entertaining national security radio where we bring you solid meat, but we put a little bit of sugar on it, right? And where's the cookies lately?
The cookies are tomorrow.
Okay. A reprieve from the
cookies.
cookies.
Request for flavors?
Well, it's Thanksgiving the day after, and let's see. I'm tired of pumpkin stuff, I think.
Okay. Chocolate chips.
Oh, man, that's good anytime. Chocolate chip cookies.
Chip Wednesday at the studio tomorrow.
That works. Mark's changing his calendar already to be here for those chocolate chip cookies. We, for the past 2 days, and for tomorrow also, because of the critical situation in the Middle East, Israel at war with a terrorist state, a swamp of terrorism, the Hamas, a designated foreign terrorist organization by the United States government. But Mark Langfand, our special guest, are you aware of the fact that the Department of State has designated the Hamas, the Islamic Resistance Movement, as a foreign terrorist organization?
No.
And are you also aware of the fact that we fund the Hamas at the same time?
Oh, yes, that one.
Okay. We're here with CJ. The disembodied Mark isn't here. And our special guest right now is Mark Langfand. You can go to marklangfand.com. Mark is a successful attorney in the day, and at night he's a crazy map guy putting together, map after map. How many maps have you made?
I'd say 100.
100 different configurations and data, and
yes,
and you love doing the research and putting
yes.
the graphics together and
yes.
making the thing happen. You are a generous guy, I must say that, because whenever we needed maps or the various sizes of handouts, the next day in FedEx, 100 maps would come. Don't worry about the price, Tom. Just hand them out. We really thank you for that. That's very, very effective. And I know it's stuff expensive. Yes, CJ.
I just do have some breaking news. For those of you who are in Broward County, right now, starting at around 5 o'clock, there is a pro-Israel rally taking place in front of the Federal Building on Broward Boulevard and 3rd. So if you're anywhere near that area and you can swing by, or even if you can drive by and just honk your horn and show your support, please do.
What is that all about? Who put these things together?
Well,
Who's
today
doing
is Tuesday, so this has been ongoing since 2009.
Oh, boy.
I believe. Shalom International has been out there every single Tuesday.
Oh, is it him? Is it Bob again?
I think so.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. He's a machine.
So, yeah.
Bob Kunst. Well, we give him our best. And if you can get out there, Broward and 3rd?
Broward and 3rd, Fredel Building.
Down in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah.
All right, what we've done so far, in the first hour, we had an on-the-ground report from our analyst in Israel, in a little town just a bit north, Netanya, where we were in February, the famous Park Hotel that was blown up by the jihadis on Passover evening. We were in the place, and it was amazing. But Barry Shaw gave us an on-the-ground report, gave us all the facts and figures. We had a fascinating conversation with him in regard to what the next step is. And he and my co-host here, CJ, and our special guest, Mark Langfand, we're trying to figure it out, and we still I haven't gotten from you guys yet. Do we still have Dave on the phone?
Yes, I think we do. Dave, you still there?
Dave, you still on the phone? He's probably just listening.
Okay.
I haven't gotten a positive next step from either of you. At least Barry Shaw threw on the table, drain the swamp out, go in there with a pretty aggressive, devastating amount of force, kill all the bad guys, destroy their bad buildings, get the PA, Palestinian Authority. Mark, what's the relationship or distinction between the PA and Fatah?
There is not a lot of distinction between the PA and Fatah. The real distinction is between the PA Fatah on one hand and Hamas on the other. Hamas it's actually a Sunni Islamic organization, whereas Fatah is more of a Sunni secularish, more sort of socialistic type of entity. And you first had the PLO and the PA, and then from that sprang Hamas.
Right.
And Hamas, even though it is Sunni, has been supported by Iran, because Iran wants to have its finger in the murder Jews and being in control of making sure there's no peace process. As crazy as that is, if Israel only gave back the West Bank, they'd really be able to. You'd think they'd hold the Katyusha rockets until they got the West Bank.
Right.
But they're so itching to kill people that they
Popping them off now,
which only gave the show away to all these Israelis.
And by the way, the head of Fatah, Mahmoud Abbas, of course, was educated at the University of Moscow and did his PhD dissertation in Holocaust denial. So not exactly, even if you're looking at a secular, possibly moderate peace partner, I don't think you're going to find it from him or from his ilk.
Not only that, he is famed to be the bag man in the Munich massacres, where he actually paid the Black September to execute the plan to kidnap, take hostage and kill the Israeli athletes in 1972.
72.
Yeah.
My meter on my computer here just went over to the red line. That means a liberal has tuned in to watch us. So I have a little device that whenever liberals tune in, it goes to the red zone.
I love it.
I got a text from my liberal cousin. He's watching.
Oh,
my God.
Well, let's show the liberal cousin the real issue about the West Bank and Katyushas.
All right, let's do it. Show him that.
Because this is the whole kicker. The kicker is the entire peace process comes down to these 10 miles between here and here. And right now, Hamas is firing these rockets that have an average range of 12 miles or about 20 kilometers. Yes, the Fahar 5s have a further radius and actually have been hitting southern Tel Aviv, which is up to here. But that's maybe 5% of the rockets. The vast majority of the rockets are going from the north of the Gaza Strip to Ashdod, to Beersheba, where you have the grads that have a little bit of a further range, but it's approximately this far. And the key concept is, how did they get these rockets into the Gaza Strip? Well, if you look at this Katyusha rocket truck, what it really is just a bunch of pipes. There's a rack of about 24 pipes on this truck. What they're firing is, generally speaking, they're firing one Katyusha rocket at a time, even though now you can go on TV and you see they have these underground things that lift up.
The little lid flips
up and fires 4 at a time. But generally speaking, they fire one of these at a time. So the key problem was, how do you stop these pipes from coming? Because they don't bring a Katyusha rocket truck like this overland into the Gaza Strip. They take these little pipes and smuggle them, almost like plumbing pipes, into the Gaza Strip. But the key is, around the Gaza Strip, there's almost no population. So yes, they fired about 14,000 of these rockets, but if you fire a mortar into North Dakota, what are you going to hit? You're most likely going to hit some cow turds. Okay? It's very unlikely you're going to hit a human being. So most of these rockets, thank goodness, have basically fallen into empty areas. The kicker is, in a West Bank demilitarized state, what is a demilitarized state? It means there's no Israeli security, no Israeli border guards, no Israeli internal security, no Israeli checkpoints. So they're going to be able to smuggle the same type of Katyusha rocket pieces that they smuggled into the Gaza Strip into the West Bank. And look at this. If a Katyusha rocket goes 12 miles from the Gaza Strip, well, everybody, a Katyusha rocket is going to go to 12 miles from the West Bank. which means instead of firing a rocket into North Dakota, you're going to be firing a rocket into Manhattan. So the difference is with 4 million Jews living here, any kind of rocket fire into here is going to create absolute bedlam and absolute mayhem. So instead of 1 million people being under Katyusha rocket fire, in an instant you'll have 5 million Jews being under rocket fire. And the key is Katyusha rockets can carry chemical weapons. So, any kind of... Now, everyone's got to be listening to this and saying, oh, this isn't... Mark Langfan is not exactly talking... this is not rocket science. Everybody knows this. What are the Israeli generals? Oh my God, all these Israeli generals say you can give up the West Bank. Don't they know about the Katyusha rocket threat? This is the whole kicker. Okay, when you go to an Israeli general and you say, well, what are you going to do if they fire a Katyusha rocket? You know what the response is?
No.
We'll reinvade the West Bank. Okay? They'll reinvade the West Bank. That was for 25 years. Recently, they've had, we'll use the Iron Dome. Right. But the Iron Dome only, at best, can capture maybe 75 to 80% of the Katyusha rockets when they're fired from one direction, one vector, from the Gaza Strip north, or two vectors if you go north into Beersheba. Right. But if you're in the West Bank and you can fire a Katyusha rocket anywhere along this strip, you're going to overwhelm
in a second.
Yeah. Because there's going to be all these different vectors that are going to have to be protected. So the Iron Dome is useless as a defense from the West Bank Katyushas.
As the total solution to
as any kind of solution.
Yep.
Okay, so these Israeli generals have been selling this whole peace program and not telling everybody that, I'm only telling you one act of a 10-act play, where this is a tragedy, and at the end of 10 acts, or even at the end of the second act, there won't be an Israel. Okay? So the key difference is, with this density of population, if you fire a rocket from here to here, it's like firing into from Brooklyn into Manhattan. And would America give Al-Qaeda Brooklyn?
Right.
Okay? Right. That is the key. Yeah. You are giving the West Bank to the Palestinians is exactly the same as giving Brooklyn
to Al-Qaeda.
Let me ask you something.
Why don't you ask a quick question? You can put the map down. We got to get Tani in.
Let me ask you something besides the Katyusha rockets with their limited range.
And Mike, why don't you bring Tani in?
Let's talk a little and go
CJ,
back
hang on 1 second. Mike, set that. And you have a question, then I got a question.
Let's go back a little bit in time to when Iraq invaded Kuwait.
Yes.
And so we're talking 1991, the Scud missiles coming from Iraq.
Those are
Syria,
big babies.
Jordan, landing in the middle of Israel, where you were showing us, not out in the middle of the desert where there is nobody.
Because they had a better guidance system.
That is a different equation entirely.
Yes.
There's no allowance in this whole farce of a ceasefire for that scenario. For the scenario of they're coming from further away in Egypt, they're coming from further away in Syria, they're coming from possibly from Iraq, they're coming from possibly from Iran.
I'll explain that one. You're asking an excellent question. The key difference is, up to now, when you had one pipe, when Fatah was in control of the Gaza, they were able to say, listen, we can't be everywhere and stop one jihadi from running out into an olive grove and firing a Katyusha rocket. And see, that's why I've always...
Now, a Katyusha rocket, for the viewers and listeners, is what's the size of a Katyusha?
It's about the size of me. It's
about 6 feet?
It's about 6 feet, and it's 122 millimeters,
so
wide.
say it's about 8 inches or so.
No.
Narrower?
I would say like that.
All right, so 4 or 5 inches.
About 4 inches.
Loaded with.
This is the key. They are loaded with several different kinds of things. Number one, high explosive. If you have a Katusha and it lands on a roof and it's high explosive, that's when you see those holes in the roof.
Right.
That's one kind of warhead. The other kind of warhead is called ball bearings. And I have a diagram here, which shows the kind of ball bearings.
Is Tony up? No, just leave that. We can't see that right now.
So the ball bearings disperse, and if you look at, like, for instance, there was a bus that got destroyed. If you look at these little bead holes, that's when you know the ball bearing. And those basically shred human beings. They're an anti-personnel type of Katusha. But then you have the third kind, which is, that's part of the nails.
Yeah,
that's part of the nails in theory. Okay. The final one is chemical Katushas, which they have not used yet, which it's a possibility that could be used. But
easily.
Use of chemical weapons by the Palestinians now would be a death wish for the Palestinians.
All right, let me bring in Tani. Is she with us? Tani, you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Have you been listening to CJ, me, and Mark having this conversation?
Yes, I have been.
Okay.
Very interesting, Mark.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dave.
MarkLangFan.com. You can go and to his website. And for our viewers and listeners, 25 minutes after 5 o'clock, you're on TrentoVision.tv and WNN on the radio side, 1470. If you're on iHeartRadio, it's WNN in South Florida. You can listen. Tani is a friend of ours. We met her a while back in Israel. She's an American who takes tours, private and public tours. Two folks, has been back and forth to Israel, all over the country, knows quite a bit about what's going on. And we had her on yesterday for a little first-person reflection on what's taking place. Tani, why don't you take a minute and tell us your thoughts in the past 24 hours, and then if you have any questions for Mark. But the issue we're struggling with today, we've been discussing it for the past 2 hours. Right now, Hillary Clinton is meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu. The U.S. is going to put pressure on Israel to stop the aggression, to not go in, not finish the job with Hamas. What do you think should happen? What should be the next step? How do you solve the Hamas problem? But first, introduce yourself, and then you can jump in with that question.
Well, you've already done a great job. Everybody knows my name, Tani Zarelli. Yes, I have been to Israel several times. I've spent extensive amount of time there, and I have almost walked from top to bottom. Well, not literally walked, but driven. But literally been in almost every spot along the borders. The only place I haven't gotten to is Eilat yet. But, that's a little resort, and I'm not quite on the resort side yet.
Okay.
I feel like there's a lot of work to be done to learn and to educate Americans about the vitality of Israel. I think that one of the major problems that we have here in the U.S., Christians, for the most part, have a biblical idea of what Israel's like. When they turn on the news, they get a whole different mental picture of what Israel might be like, because 90% of the time when Israel is reflected, or there's a subject about Israel, you're seeing war-torn cities. And so for me, I know those 90% of the time aren't even Israel. For me, those are images that I want to help Americans to get past. And so for me, it's about helping Americans to bringing them over and showing them Israel from a past, present, and future, helping them as we walk along the borders to understand the proximity of Lebanon and Syria and Jordan, and what happened during the times to make Israel great, taking them to the different places where battles have actually happened, but then coming inside to Israel where they meet the people, they taste the food, they experience the culture, and they begin to hear the stories of everyday life. And Tom, what that does is it begins to help people to not see Israel now from more of a security standpoint. They begin to clearly understand that the IDF are truly protecting not only Israel, but they're protecting the world, because they're the ones that are on the front line of all terrorism. And they understand they're the only ones. The Israelis are the only ones that truly understand the mind of the terrorist, because this is their neighbors. They've been dealing with it for a long time. So when we bring this into the second part of your question, when you're trying to solve what's going to happen with Hamas, for me, that's been something I've actually talked about and thought about for a long time now. And when you talk about our political leaders coming over and putting the pressure on, Tom, my background is 20 years in politics. So I've been on the inside of politics, being able to understand how it maneuvers, how a politician even thinks. And I can tell you right now that we do not have, Allen West was probably the closest we had to understanding the need for security, and he was the closest to understanding the culture, the mind of the people. But we don't have elected officials that truly understand the mind of the terrorist. We cannot grasp this with a Western mindset. We've never faced it. We've never dealt with it, except for with 911 and the things that we've stopped. But we still haven't even handled it properly. So when we talk about Hillary Clinton going in and she's putting this pressure, she has no clue what she's actually doing. And I don't mean that in any disrespect to her authority as Secretary of State, but she doesn't understand what it takes to handle the situation in Gaza, and not only Gaza, but what we're doing in Gaza will have an effect on what happens in the north with Hezbollah, because they all think alike and they all work together. They need to see the strong arm, as I said yesterday, of Israel. Israel needs to first and foremost think about its land and its people. And I believe that's what the leadership of Israel will do. I believe that's what Bibi will do. So, as you know, we're seeing right now, last reports that I was just looking at with the IDF, the ceasefire agreement that Hamas said would happen at midnight hasn't happened yet. So, you know, if you're going to talk a ceasefire agreement, I guess it really needs to start with Hamas, and it needs to start with them disengaging themselves from firing those rockets that Mark was just talking about. And that, you know, to just kind of solidify what I'm saying or stop what I'm talking about, when Mark was talking about the chemical, being able to put chemical into those rockets, that was a real eye-opener for me. And I can tell you there is some things happening within areas that I can't talk about, where the chemical aspect could easily be manifested and brought in through different areas into Gaza where they could get their hands on it. And that's a very frightening idea, and I really hope that Israel is paying attention to that.
Wow, thank you, Tani, for that. Yes, we're familiar with your back. We are familiar, but I don't think the public is totally. But your husband's been an elected official for many years, state senator up in the Pacific Northwest, correct?
Yes, he was until May, and he retired.
Okay, so you understand that element, and you picked up on what Mark said about you said Israel is protecting other nations from around the world.
Absolutely.
Mark has a do your domino theory real quickly, Mark.
Okay.
I don't think the maps are going to work right now because we have this shot up there.
I have maps that are going to help you, Tani, and I just want to say anybody who sends an email to either Tom or me or anybody at the United West, I will free of charge send out my maps. And I have one map that I think would be especially valuable for you, Tani. Actually, it's two maps. And what the map is basically putting the countries that are around Israel and just asking a simple question. What would happen, God forbid, a million times if something happened to Israel? And how I came to do this is I would go to congressional offices and
hang on one second, Mark. Tani, I don't know if you heard, Mark's an attorney and a successful attorney, and is a researcher. So he's just not some schmuck. We do have schmuck friends, but he's not a schmuck friend. He's a highly successful attorney, good friend that does tremendous research. And pick this up. This is a fascinating theory.
And so what would happen is I'd be in these offices, and I wouldn't go as any kind of fancy person, just go as myself. And they would look at me, and they'd say, okay, now I understand why the West Bank is important for Israel. You got to do me a favor. And I say, I know what you're going to ask me. And the question would always be, why is Israel important to the United States? Because everyone always parrots that Israel is a strategic asset. But if you can't explain to someone that it's a strategic asset, then you have other people who are going to be saying that Israel is causing instability in the Middle East. Israel is causing high gas prices. Israel is the cause of all of the terrorism, which has a patina of truth to it. And so what I would do is I created two sets of maps, and I just show people, I show where the countries are around Israel. And I say, okay, if God forbid something happens to Israel, what's going to happen? Really, at the end of the day, all you're going to have is a little bit of a bigger Syria / Hezbollah and a little bit of a bigger Egypt. That's it. Nothing. Egypt and Syria are never going to say the next day, okay, I'm going to withdraw and make a Palestinian state, just like they withdrew from Lebanon.
Yeah.
So I say that's the day one. No one in 22 years has ever disagreed with that simple statement. Next, Jordan. For 22 years, I've been saying Jordan is about to fall as it is. Jordan is basically not even there today. And so if and Israel has been protecting Jordan and keeping Jordan relatively stable from all of the Islamic currents that are going back and forth. So if Israel weren't there to protect Jordan, how long would Jordan have? 0. In 22 years, nobody has disagreed with those two simple things, and I show it on a map, but that's all I need. Because what then happens is you see that Egypt, with 80 million people who have a per capita income of about $3,000 a person, control of the Suez Canal, the strongest conventional military outside of Israel in the Middle East, all of a sudden happens to have a land contiguous border with Saudi Arabia to the south. Saudi Arabia to the south. And in fact, for many, many decades, Saudi Arabia and Egypt were enemies of each other. So I say, how long is Saudi Arabia going to last if you have Egypt on the northern border of Saudi Arabia? They look at me, 0. And I say, that's exactly it. So are you getting stability? No. Are you getting lower gas prices? No. Are you getting less terrorism? No. You're getting a Muslim tsunami.
A Muslim tsunami. A Muslim tsunami.
A Muslim tsunami. So that was, for 23 years, I called that Eastern Theater. And actually, I've done a video on it.
Yes, you have.
Yeah,
okay.
Very good.
A 4-minute video. Okay. 2 years ago, I branched out and I went west, young man. And so I did the same thing, but instead of showing the effects to the east, I showed the effects to the west.
Of no Israel.
Of no Israel.
Somehow Israel gets wiped out, or all the Jews go back to where they came
wherever
from.
They go. Yeah, right. They leave. They hand the keys over here.
They come to Florida. They come back to Florida.
Or Los Angeles.
Okay.
And so I ask a simple question. Then this is what no one understands, because people think, oh, Turkey. People think Cyprus. They think they're all the same kind of country. Well, in fact, Turkey has got 75 million people. Egypt has 80 million people. How many Christian Greek Cypriots are there in the south of Cyprus? Only 800,000. So the question is, how could 800,000 Greek Cypriots, where Greece has absolutely no money to begin with, where Cyprus is not even a NATO country, how could 800,000 Christian Greek Cypriots last when you've got 75 million Turks to the north, 80 million Egyptians to the south, and a huge ton of oil and gas reserves sitting in the Levant basin between Israel and Cyprus, which is one of the only reasons why Cyprus is not totally bankrupt at the moment, because they've got all this oil and gas. So if Cyprus goes, which it's clear it would, then in fact you have not only a Muslim tsunami, you have a Muslim tsunami caliphate in control of the entire eastern Mediterranean. Next stop is Greece, with Greece being a core NATO country. And when I go into these congressional offices, I just ask a simple question. If God forbid something were to happen to Israel, Cyprus is toast. How much are you going to have to put in the U.S. defense budget in years 2, 3, 4, and 5 to fund what would be almost a sure attack of some type on a core NATO country of Greece? They look at me and they're in shock, because the number would so dwarf the 3 little billion that Israel gets, it wouldn't even be a joke. Look what it's costing in the Middle East to have forces there as it is. It's in the gajillions. So, in fact, I have maps that illustrate your exact point. And it is a lot different when you say Israel is a strategic asset and you say Israel is protecting, and when people actually see that Israel is protecting. And the way I always say it is I say, you know, that little Satan, big Satan is a cliche. Why? Because when you say Israel is the little Satan and America is the big Satan and they're going to they're sort of disconnected in a way. There's no real connection between the little Satan and the big Satan except for the rhetorical flourish. Once I show people my 2 maps, I throw out the Satan. I say Israel is the Western civilization's tip of its spear against a Muslim tsunami that will annihilate us. And therefore, if you lose Israel, you will have lost the tip of your spear, and it will not, you will not even be able to defend.
Well, with Israel gone, either the Sunni or the Shia,
or both,
are going to have the oil, right, of the Middle East, and we ain't getting it. CJ, your thoughts, and then we'll go to Tani, and then.
Oh no, I just wanted Mark, if he's able to expand and go towards the direction past Iraq, towards Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, because these are areas that we've already withdrawn from or are planning to withdraw from, and now you have from the north, from the south, from the east, from the west. How does that all converge? How does Iran fit into the calculus with Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Turkey nexus?
You are
Who
asking,
comes out? Who's the top dog in that equation?
You are asking a brilliant question, and you have to remember, I am working on an elevator to 10, 20, maybe even not even 10 to 15 second spiel. So I've always had a philosophy that if I can't make it on a graphic page that's 8.5 by 11, or at most 11 by 17, I don't want to go there because it's too complicated for your average congressman or senator or their staffer. So what happens is...
Hey, wait a minute. We have an expert with us, Tani, who's been in 20 years. What are your thoughts? Couple of thoughts from you, Tani. We're starting to wind down here, but I don't know if you've had a chance to see Mark's presentation. How effective is this quick and dirty 4-color material for persuading elected officials? Tani.
Okay, first, I would say that depending on the reputation that you hold, when you walk into the door of a congressman or a legislator of any kind, you need to remember that the first and foremost thing in a congressman's mind, because they run every 2 years, is a next election. When you walk in the door, they're not thinking about what you have to say to them. They're wondering if you have behind you a group of people that can potentially be donors for them. And their next thing is, can I agree with what this person's going to say to me? If what you're talking about happens to be something that's not popular, then they're listening to you very politely. They'll agree with you oftentimes. They may disagree at moments.
Her husband's saying.
And they may take your materials and they may go on. And you've done your best to try and affect them. That's truly the mind of most legislators at the congressional level. It doesn't mean that they're a bad congressman. It doesn't mean that they're not honorable, because they are. And I'm not talking, you can take this from the federal on down to your state, local, and county levels. Every political leader is thinking usually about the next campaign. So what Mark is doing by bringing them the maps is actually fabulous, and being able to do it in a synopsis way, explain to them why Israel is so important to us. But for me, I know that we're probably not going to change the mind of elected officials too often. So for me, it's about educating the populace about what is happening in Israel and how does that affect America. And what most Americans don't know is that I don't know if you've done any maps with population at all, but it's a very interesting thing, because a couple of years ago I did. I went out and searched out maps through the Pew Foundation on populations of the U.S. I took just the Christian population, then I took the Jewish population, and then I took the Muslim population. When I'm out speaking, doing a presentation to groups and stuff locally, the three maps, and I start showing them, okay, here's your, look at where this Christian population is. And then I focus in on the Bible Belt. And then the Jewish map up that shows their population. And then I put the Muslim population in the U.S. up. They're shocked. Because everywhere there's a concentration of Christians, there are Muslims. Some of the biggest mosques that have been under investigation. Wherever there's a Jewish population, there is a Muslim population.
Very interesting.
And there have been mosques there that are have been under investigation at one point or the other, or at another time. So when I get to that point in the presentation, I realize that the maps can be very, very important. But if you want to change the mind of an elected official, you get his voting populace educated, and you get them contacting them, writing them, you arm them with the tools that they need to speak to their elected officials, you will begin to see a change. But I also believe in the power of a people. I love the fact that we are a democracy that forms under a republic. We can have if we don't want that elected official, we can vote them out. We don't have to vote an entire party out. We can vote one person out. If I educate enough people, we know that those people are one day going to be an elected official. And their mind has already been determined on what they need to do with, how they need to stand with Israel. So for me, it's like a double-edged sword. On one hand, you need to go into our, congressional leaders, and you need to explain. And I believe using those maps is powerful because it is a visual for them to see. You need to speak to them quick and simple. You've got to be very careful not to use rhetoric and come at them with a lot of. You don't want to be seen as overzealot or too religious. And you got to know that there's going to be many of them you're going to talk to, and they're going to smile at you. They're going to tell you, yeah, I'm right there with you, buddy. Do what I can. And you're not getting anything out of them.
All right, Tani, we have to get going here, but the Civics 101 lobbying lesson on using material coming from someone, bring us all back, with your experience and your love for Israel is much appreciated. We're going to be continuing our show tomorrow, dealing with the war. We're going to find out if there's a peace, that's brokered and what that means. And we'll get into more of the analytical material tomorrow. And Mark, we need to have you back in the studio sometime.
I would love
in the near future.
And Tanya, nice meeting you.
It was nice to meet you too, Mark.
And CJ.
And I used to live in Seattle, so you need to email me and tell me where you are. I don't want to give you away on the web, but I know you're near me.
She's in the Pacific Northwest. And Tani, you and Mark need to exchange information because you could use his material and your speaking and all of the work you do. It'd be fabulous. So.
Yeah, wonderful. And I don't mind for your listeners because anybody can contact me and it's public. You guys can email me at my first name, TANI, at TANIZARELLI.com.
Okay, perfect. We thank you very, very much, and we thank all the folks for tuning in today and the listeners here on TrentoVision.tv. My crazy cousins who are out there, and one liberal, one's not. They're brothers.
But they're still crazy.
But they're still crazy, yeah.
But we still love them.
We still love them, yes, of course. And we're going to be digging into all of this tomorrow. So, well, we got to blow out of Dodge right now. Thank you very much. Pray for the state of Israel and the decision makers. And I don't know, CJ. I'll see you tomorrow. Okay.
Thanks, Tom.
Bye.
We missed. The disembodied spirit. He'll be back tomorrow. And
but
Silent
he was
Mark.
with us in spirit.
He was, and he was texting me every 5 minutes anyway.
Oh, was he?
Giving directions, yeah. Goodbye, all. We are out of here.
Thanks for tuning in to Trento Vision, where bad ideas get pulverized and the truth will set you free. Tom Trento can be reached at 561-319-5533 or tom@trentovision.tv. And tune in again weekdays from